All right. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Kendrick Youngblood. I'm back with another video. This one is a bit different than what you might be used to if you've been on my channel before, right? I'm just trying new things. I'm trying to blow up on YouTube, trying to see what works. Y'all know how I do, you know what I'm saying? I've got the chain on, right? Nah, but this one is going to be a bit different. Today, we're covering how to write a reverse poem, all right? Now, what is a reverse poem exactly? A reverse poem is any poem with a line order that can be read uh, the reverse order and still be read coherently, right? So there's a message on the way down that can be understood, but a message from the bottom up that can also be understood, right? Now, why am I qualified to teach how to write a reverse poem? Well, that's quite simple. I've actually published one before. The very first poem I published is called Dreamers. It's actually in Shards Magazine, which is the University of Houston's online literary journal, right? And we're actually going to cover that real quick. I am going to read that to y'all and show it to you in the process. And yeah, hopefully you will see how it's done. And then I'll go into the mechanics of why it works, why it can be read forwards and backwards, right? Okay, so let's get started. This is called Dreamers. We will only ever live out our dreams in our sleep. And it would be absurd of you to assume that I delight in your success, the way the moon is fond of the night, the way the sun adores the horizon. You somehow seem to admire me. How did I ever mistake that falsehood for the truth? Felicity is a treasure hoarded by the entitled. I used to think that one day we could reign among the stars. Alternatively, people have openly shared their belief that we are incapable of even ascending above the clouds. I doubt that anyone will say, I have faith in your music to take the world by storm. What a ludicrous thing to believe. Our dreams cannot become a reality. We sometimes live as if the Creator himself pumped our passions into our hearts, as if we are supernovas in a galaxy of fireflies, as if we are not silly for behaving as if we are destined to soar. It is time we start perceiving ourselves reasonably. I once told you that your voice was orchestrated to sing. You said that I could become our generation's best poet, but it would be naive of us to trust such words. Some have spat their cynicism brutally. Many have sought to trample on our hopes. You and I are certainly shackled by our environment. No longer should we believe lies like, all things are possible for those who believe. But if there's anything I have learned, it is this, that no wishful thinking will grant us opportunities. Deep down, you and I are well aware that working on your songs and my poems is void of meaning. We will decay in our graves along with our aspirations. There is no way I will yield to the thought that our dreams can be more than merely dreams. And then I have this note at the bottom saying to read it again from the bottom to the top, right? Now, when I did this initial read for the person I wrote it for, being my girlfriend, she cried because I pretty much told her, I mean, you saw the message. You see clearly it's saying like, we ain't gonna succeed, give up. You know what I'm saying? But the reaction she gave me when I read it in the reverse order showed me that it does in fact work, right? So let's read it in reverse. Our dreams can be more than merely dreams. There is no way I will yield to the thought that we will decay in our graves along with our aspirations. That working on your songs and my poems is void of meaning. Deep down, you and I are well aware that no wishful thinking will grant us opportunities. But if there's anything I have learned, it is this. All things are possible for those who believe. No longer should we believe lies like, you and I are certainly shackled by our environment. Many have sought to trample on our hopes. Some have spat their cynicism brutally. But it would be naive of us to trust such words. You said that I could become our generation's best poet. I once told you that your voice is orchestrated to sing. It is time we start perceiving ourselves reasonably. We are not silly for behaving as if we are destined to soar, as if we are supernovas in a galaxy of fireflies, as if the Creator himself pumped our passions into our hearts. We sometimes live as if our dreams cannot become a reality. What a ludicrous thing to believe. I have faith in your music to take the world by storm. I doubt that anyone will say that we are incapable of even ascending above the clouds. Alternatively, people have openly shared their belief that one day we could reign among the stars. I used to think felicity is a treasure hoarded by the entitled. How did I ever mistake that falsehood for the truth? You somehow seem to admire me. The way the sun adores the horizon, the way the moon is fond of the night. I delight in your success, and it would be absurd of you to assume that we will only ever live out our dreams in our sleep. Okay, so that is an example of a reverse poem. Now let's actually break down the mechanics of it, why exactly it works, why it can be read in the forward direction, but also in the reverse direction, right? Okay, so let's see. What makes a good reverse poem? As you can see, on the way down, it was very negative, but then on the way back up, it had a very positive, very optimistic message to it, right? I would argue, at least, that it's better to have a negative message on the way down and a positive message on the way up than maybe the exact same tone on the way down and the way up, or a positive message on the way down and then a negative message on the way up, right? The reason being, it's better to break down your reader and then lift them back up in the final read than to lift them up in the initial read and break them down in the final read, right? You end up making them feel like crap in the end, even though there was just as much a positive message as a negative one, right? So I would argue it's better to have the negative message first and then the positive message on the reverse read, right? You also want to include certain lines that are specifically pessimistic when read alone, right? And other lines that are optimistic when read alone, okay? That doesn't mean that the meaning can't be different when read in a reverse order or something like that, but it's best if when read alone they are positive or negative, and I'll get into that in a second, right? You also have neutral lines. These neutral lines have a positive or negative tone depending on the line read before it, but provides neither tone when read alone, right? So a line such as, I went to the grocery store, doesn't have a positive or negative tone to it. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I would call a neutral line. By the way, these terms, pessimistic line, optimistic line, neutral line, I made them up, okay? I didn't know what else to call them, and there isn't really a rubric for how to make a reverse poem. That's why I'm actually making one for y'all, because I saw a need, I filled a need, you know what I'm saying? Like, I saw where the poetry community was lacking, decided to provide a little something, you know what I'm saying? All right, okay, let me stop joking around. This video is getting too long, so let's wrap this up. Right? We also have pivot conjunctions, right? Now, these pivot conjunctions, that's another term I coined, right? These would be things like, and, that, as, if, whatever, right? And these go at the start or end of a line. They allow for the forward and reverse reading in the first place. You could think of them as the heart or the backbone of any reverse poem. It is possible to write a reverse poem without these pivot conjunctions, but man, it makes it easier, right? It allows for the duality, for the two-directional reading, right? So also having a variety of pivot conjunctions is very useful as well. Prevents repetitiveness, prevents redundancy. It allows for a more flavorful read, right? There's a couple other things. The poem should be short in length, 1 page or less, right? That'll limit reader fatigue from the negativity in the forward read, right? And it'll also decrease the likelihood that readers catch on to the reversibility, because the longer it is, the more likely they are to catch on to that, right? You also want to have a note at the bottom of the poem that actually tells the readers to read the lines in reverse order. So if we go back to the poem I just finished, right, you can see at the bottom I say, read it again from bottom to top, right? So you want to include that so they know that there's another message you're trying to convey to them. Now, this note that you leave should be 1 line long, I would argue. You don't want it to draw attention to itself. Maybe bracket or mark it somehow to indicate that it's not actually part of the poem, but is a separate note that the poet is trying to give to the audience, so they know there's another message to convey, right? And I provided some examples here. Okay, now before I actually get into the breakdown of the poem, I just want to make y'all aware of the fact that I have left the link to my published poem in this document, and I'm going to be putting the document in the YouTube description of the video. Okay, so you'll always have access to this. I've set up the settings so that so long as you have the link, which I'll be providing, you'll be able to access this anytime, no questions asked, right? Okay, so as you can see here, I started the poem off with a pessimistic message and ended it with an optimistic message. Now, why did I do that? The reasons for that are quite simple. I wanted the initial read to be clearly negative, so I started off the forward read with a negative line, right? And by ending the poem with a positive line, the reverse read begins with an optimistic tone, right? So that's why I had it like that. There's other things where I have blocks of positivity and blocks of negativity right here, right? I do that just to, if I have it like positive, negative, it just gets kind of, I don't know, redundant. I like to kind of scatter the tone, I guess. I don't want it to be so monotonous, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, as you can see here, I've also included these pivot conjunctions. And by the way, I should have actually said this before, sorry. I've provided a color key up here. So red lines would be pessimistic, blue lines optimistic, neutral lines purple, and pivot conjunctions green, right? So these pivot conjunctions allow for the reading in both directions. And these neutral lines, they might look like they're just fluff or filler, but they can convey new messages that the positive and negative lines do not on their own. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is pretty much that. You can look at this breakdown on your own if you want. Like I said, there isn't really anything like this on the internet. This is pretty much the only place you'll find it. All right. Like when I was trying to write a reverse poem for the first time, I had to self-teach myself. All right. But this is what I came up with. I really, really hope this is helpful to y'all. That's pretty much it. Like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram on at Kendrick. Follow me on Instagram at Kendrick_Youngblood. That'll be in the description as well. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. If you want more videos like this, let me know in the comment section. All right. And with that, I am out. Peace.